So it was actually about 5 years ago that my brother and I got all of our Mustangs together and made a video. It was when I bought my blue Bullitt Mustang back, and so I've been really wanting to get all the cars together and start lining them up and get them all where we can see them all, walk around them all, everything all together. I've added a couple of Mustangs to my collection since the last time we did this, and my brother still has the three that he's had, and we just wanted to get them together so we can do another walk around video. There's always something to say about each car that you might forget, and so each car has something that I know we're going to forget some details on, so we just kind of wanted to do like a conversation style hangout today and line up all the Mustangs. It took a little while to do this, and this morning I woke up at like 6:30 in the morning and I thought, let's go ahead and do this. It's time to get these cars together. It's going to be a nice weekend. It's a great temperature outside. It's not too cold yet. It's just perfect for this. We didn't really have anything going on, so we decided to go ahead and put them all together. I actually brought them all down here by myself, and my brother showed up in his yellow Cobra at the end. So this was just a quick little walkthrough after I lined up all these cars and brought them over. And this parking lot is about a block away from my house and a block away from my brother's house. So it's not too far away, but it is a little bit of a job to get all these cars together. You got to bring them down, line them up, and make sure they're all parked nicely. And I wanted to do them in order, a certain sequence. I wanted the GTs on the end, the Mach 1s in the middle, the Cobras on the other end. So it took a little bit of organization. I wanted to make sure that the cars were parked in the middle of the parking lot so we could see the back side and the front side of them. And I wanted to just go around and talk about each car. Last time we were just kind of really quick and said a couple things about the car and moved on, but I wanted to talk a little bit more and have it more of a conversation with my brother and me. And like I've said before in my other videos, it's fun to get the cars out of where you usually see them in the garage or wherever they are and put them in a different atmosphere where we can walk around and see them better in the daylight and everything. So we're going to do a little walk around here, and my brother's going to join us, and we'll talk about each of the cars and give you a few details that you might not have known about the cars. Some of the things you may have known if you watch the channel. And each of these cars has a story. It has a playlist on the channel, and there's a lot of details that you might know about the cars if you've watched each of those playlists, especially the project cars that we've done. But like I said, this was a pretty good event. My mom even showed up with her Shelby shirt on. She had a 65 GT350R shirt she picked up at a Ross or something. So she was really excited about that, and came and hung out, and my grandmother came down too. So we did this, and then we put it out there as a little car meet and had a couple more Mustangs show up that you'll see here a little bit later. But it's just kind of fun to see them all lined up here. So we'll go ahead and do a walk around of each of the cars. Here comes my brother. So that's better. Now we actually have them all here. I was waiting on that one Cobra to show up with him. And, without the one car, it's just not the same. I took the earlier video we just watched as I've been talking here, and they're all here except for the Cobra. But it's just like a family member. It's sad when one of them's missing, so you got to get everybody together, and it's just not the same without everyone. So now that he's here and the cars are all lined up, we can take this official video walk around, and we can get talking about each of the cars. So sit back and relax and enjoy hearing a little bit about this large Mustang New Edge collection. All right, so it's been about 5 years since we had all of our Mustangs together, and my brother and I wanted to get them and line them all up. A lot of them have changed performance-wise, number-wise. We've bought some, sold some. So we just wanted to talk about the cars and do it in more of just kind of a hangout session where we get to talk to each other and maybe remind each other of something as we're going along. And we'll just kind of walk around each car and talk about them.
Yeah, it's kind of neat to have your own car show. All these cars show up and it looks like everybody's having a big Mustang meet, but yeah, when we go to car shows, we like to see the Mustangs the most, so it's kind of like having our own little car show.
Yeah. All right, so we'll start off with the 2004 Screaming Yellow Terminator Cobra, and this would probably be what you would say is your favorite of all the cars you own.
Yeah, I mean, they all have reasons that I like them, and they're all different. This is my most pristine, lowest mileage, highest horsepower car. Kind of the flagship car, but yeah, I just, on a day like this, I love Screaming Yellow. You look at the color, it just pops at you. It's fun to drive, it's bright, gets you in a good mood. No, it's not a color that I'd want to drive every day to work and watch it fade and get dirty. So, you know, in a show condition like this is perfect. But I just love the name Screaming Yellow. I love the color. We have some zinc yellow cars back there too. But I really like Screaming Yellow. And so when I was looking for a Terminator Cobra, I wanted 03 or 04. I was partial more towards the 04s to get the 9-thread heads, and later found out the 10th anniversary, which would be my second option of what I wanted. Most of them came with the 9-thread heads, being some of the last produced for 03. But I have a torch red Mach 1, so if I was going to get a color other than torch red, it would be Screaming Yellow was what I wanted. And then I found out there were only 299 coupes made, so they're just a lot more rare. It's become more of a treasure hunt to try to find one. And this one was just perfect. Found down in Vegas, no rust, original owner. And at the time, I said if I was going to pay anything more in the 20,000 range, I wanted it to be upgraded but not reversible or irreversible. So it had a 2.3 liter Whipple on it. It didn't have one gauge in the car, so I was really anxious as soon as I got it to make sure that it was healthy and that I wasn't going to blow it up. It was my first supercharged car that I had ever owned. So
yeah, I remember when you were looking at Cobras, there was one back east that you were really set on, but the steering wheel, like the leather was starting to kind of have some wear on the top of it. And it was a nice car, but it just wasn't as nice as this. And really, every time I ride in this car and get in and we go for a drive, I think this is probably the nicest Cobra I've ever seen. It really is. It has been super well kept, one owner car like you said, and it's clean. It hasn't been abused. It has, you know, the nice 2.3 Whipple on there. And so I'm happy you have this car, because it means a lot to you and the channel that you have, because you talked about these cars when you got this car. You made a walk around video, you talked about the book Iron Fist Lead Foot, and I remember this was something that when you get something, you know everything about it, and you really want to know everything. And so I remember you making that video, and a lot of people know you by this car, and you know, a lot of people know us as the New Edge Mustang guys because we love these cars, and it takes a deep love for something to be so fanatic about it that people recognize how much like you love it, and that's what drives you to want to know everything about it, you know. So
yeah, and at the time it's like, by the way, they love yellow. That's kind of cool to see a bee right there on yellow. But yeah, you know, at the time that we got him, the Terminator was still really just the king of the hill, and it was hard to find anything that, you know, they did so well with the Terminator with the forged Manley connecting rods, the forged Zollner pistons, forged crank from Kellogg, everything that, you know, it was really a hard car to beat for a long time, especially for the price point.
Right, and back when we were buying these, you know, they were pretty affordable, but I mean, that's a whole nother conversation about the value of these cars, but how much money people made back then, you know, inflation. So for its time, it was still a pretty pricey car, especially for the age. But I mean, you were still looking at new GT500s for double the price and stuff like that. So for the power output, for everything, if this is a car you love, then this is something that was worth picking up at the time. And I know it wasn't easy to pick it up and buy it. You know, you have to be really careful with your finances, and you know, it's not just about going and picking up whatever car you want to buy. I was listening to a guy the other day who said he doesn't have like a lot of money like other guys have, and he was really happy he has his 10th anniversary black Cobra. And but for us, it wasn't like that. We didn't just, you know, go write a check for all these cars. We had to work to buy each one of these.
Yeah, I was in college when I got this one, and you know, sitting down financing, crunching the numbers, you know, and I'm, you know, paying about 23,000, which, you know, 10, 11 years ago, that was a lot harder to do. And you know, it was also a motivation to get through college and a reason to be working so hard. And you know, and I didn't want to have a car until I had a garage, you know, so.
But anyway, yeah, that's so beautiful Cobra, you know, 45,000 miles.
It's still at 44,000
44.
right now. It'll be 45,000 miles soon. I got it with 39,000 on it, making, you know, just shy of 600 or 600 even at the wheels. 91 octane, so you know, it's perfect for a Terminator.
All right. So then we'll move. Speaking of 10th anniversary cars, we'll talk about this one a little bit. So this is my 03 Cobra 10th anniversary, and some people get confused about the 10th anniversary thing. If you look here at the badge, it says SVT and it says 10th anniversary. And there were Lightnings, and I think the other SVT vehicles got this badge in 2003, because what this is 10-year anniversary of SVT. Before SVT, it was SVO, Special Vehicles Operations. It's Special Vehicle Team, and it actually isn't around anymore now. It's just Ford Performance. But that was 93 to 03 is 10 years, so that's why it's called the 10th anniversary. And when they came out with these cars, they changed a few little things on the 10th anniversary cars, like the wheels. And I believe last time we made the video, I didn't have the 10th anniversary wheels on it. I kept them, but they just weren't on the car. I had another set of 03 Cobra wheels on it at the time. And so, I mean, you could make a whole video about what a 10th anniversary Cobra is, but it's basically known for the interior having the red seats, the red inserts, the red door pulls, and all the carbon fiber leather print on the steering wheel, shifter boot, shift handle, all that stuff. And so, you know, we'll talk about it a little in some of our other videos. I was really happy this one still had the floor mats on them. Those badges get a little scuffed up. Obviously, people are dragging their feet across them all the time, but I was really excited it had that. When I was looking to buy one of these, it had, there was another one, but it didn't have the floor mats, and it had a rebuilt engine and certain things that I was still interested in buying it, but this is what I really wanted. I wanted an original hand-built engine by SVT. I wanted it to have all the 10th anniversary stuff, which it does. A lot of guys get rid of the shift knob and they put something else on there, so it was important to me that it came with that. And so I'm happy that it has everything that it should have come with. And
I'm glad you got it too, because like I said, this was my second choice. Tied for first place when it came to Terminators. I wanted Torch Red with the 10th anniversary, or, you know, the Screaming Yellow, so I kind of got to at least get both of them through you getting one.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about being twins, is we can share cars in that regard of saying, well, you already have this one, so I'll buy this other one, and we get to enjoy them together. And it's more than just friends, you know, it's a family relationship. But yeah, I always wanted a red Cobra. Back in '03 when the Terminator came out, I thought that's what I want, is torch red, just a bright red Cobra. I thought that's kind of the epitome of it. You know, that's the coolest thing you could have. And I like Sonic Blue. At one time I thought about having a Sonic Blue Terminator, my Azure Blue Mach 1, and the True Blue Bullitt, just having kind of a blue theme going on. But for me, it's important to have a red Cobra. That's something I always wanted, and so I made that happen. And it took some things to do that. I've talked about in my other videos. I actually sold my Bullitt and my red Mach 1 to buy this car. More of an agreement with my wife. I told her, you know, I'd get rid of a couple cars to financially make this feasible. And then I ended up getting another Mach 1 later, and I actually bought the Bullitt back, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this has the VMP 265 liter supercharger, and it's a stock engine, like I said, all original. You know, and if you know what Terminators are, then you know that it's overbuilt from the factory, and it'll handle 1,000 horsepower, and there's not going to be any issues there. But the owner before me had a ported Eaton on here before. It was a posi port, and I believe the number on it was number 23. It would have the number down there of what number posi port it was, and so it was kind of an early posi port blower. It's kind of cool. And he had these PFAB tanks on here, which a lot of people really like. But you know, a Mechman alternator, big 3 upgrade kit, fuel system. It's a Return 4 Innovations fuel system, and a VMP intake, GT 500 throttle body, just a bunch of stuff like that to, you know, make the car run right. And it does have kind of a smaller pulley on it. This is a 3.0, and it makes 21 pounds of boost, which is a lot for just a 91 octane tune. It made 650 on 91, and it's kind of where I like to keep it. I'm not really hammering on the car a lot, but I'll put some VP in it if I'm gonna be hard on it.
And yeah, I was really glad that you did this supercharger install too, because you know, I was happy to get mine with, I counted well over $8,000 invested into it. That's the way to buy a car a lot of times, but you always get the question, oh, did you put that blower on yourself? And it's like, no, I bought it that way. And so after this, we were able to say, well, my brother has the VMP 2.65, and we have the full install video walking everybody else through it step by step, because just as much as we enjoy these cars with each other, we love to share our knowledge with everybody on how to fix them, because there's nothing worse than something going wrong with your car and you're at that point where you say, what do I do? And so we have, you know, all of our step-by-step videos on how to install just about everything you'll see on these cars, and we'll put a link to that in the description too.
Yeah, so
now I remember though, part of the huge reason why you bought this car is because you wanted to have a Terminator that was, you know, a little bit more built, had a blower swap.
yeah.
That was something that you just couldn't do with this one.
Right.
So,
Originally, I bought this to have the dream Terminator and put a big blower on it and do everything I did with this car. And you know, when I bought this, you know, still had a young family, and this was one of the only, actually this is the only one I ever financed. So I bought this one and I took out a loan for it, and I had to put down $6,000 over what the car's value was just to buy it. And so, as you can tell, it's a beautiful car, and this is one of the most desirable Cobras. It has 34,000 miles on it. I bought it with 29,000, and it rolled 30 on the way home from Phoenix when I got it. And it's a, you know, rust-free desert car. The guy I bought it from was the second owner, and it only had 1,000 miles on it that he had put on it. So it really, it was mostly a one-owner car. And I did a lot to buy this. And at the time, I actually had my Bullitt pretty built up, and I was going to put a supercharger on this and upgrade it. And my brother said, well, if you're going to upgrade your Bullitt, why don't you put the money towards a Terminator? And so I thought, well, I guess I could do that because it was probably going to be about $5,000 or so to supercharge the Bullitt. And so I put that towards getting a Terminator because, I mean, out of all these cars, the Terminators are the ones that are the most desirable, and everybody loves them the most. And you know, you go to a car show with a Mach 1 and people would say, oh, don't you wish you had a Cobra? And deep down, yeah, I did. I'd ride in my brother's Cobra, and I wanted one for myself. So it's something I'm glad I bought. And I was looking for a red one originally. I was actually going to buy a 10th anniversary up in Washington. And then I thought, you know, wouldn't it be cool to get orange? Orange is kind of a wild color. And you know, I was already pre-approved to buy the 10th up there, and I started looking at these, and they were all overpriced. Like every one I found on SVT Performance, they were asking several $1,000s over the value of what the other ones were going for. And I would message a couple people and talk to them about their cars for sale, and they'd say, well, you must be new. You don't understand that these competition orange cars have a premium on them, and you're not going to find one for less or what the other cars are going for. So
only 281 coupes made,
yeah,
72 convertibles.
Right. So very, very hard to find. And when you get a car like this, you don't be picky about it if you do find one for sale. And so luckily for me, this one was all stock except it had a catback and a short shifter on it. It did have an air intake on it. I've returned that to stock.
And you upgraded to the Borla Stingers.
I did put the Borla Stinger exhaust on it and polished them. And so, because I think every Mustang needs to at least sound good. And I prefer to have them lowered and a short shifter. Those three things are like kind of basics for me. Although this one is not lowered. I think the Cobras actually don't look too bad when they're not lowered. My red one has coilovers on it from Maximum Motorsports. And I have a whole series of each car in the channel, and so it kind of goes over what they all have done to them. But this car, I wanted it to at least sound good. It already had a catback on it, so I sold the Mach catback and bought the Borla Stingers and polished them.
And I have to say, that clear glass, you know, the first thing everybody wants to do is tint the windows, and it's nice, but there's also nothing like looking at beautiful, clear factory glass all the way around. It makes a huge difference when you're driving in it or even looking at it. So
absolutely. I actually made an appointment to get the windows tinted on this years and years ago, and the appointment fell through and the shop wasn't really working with me, and I said, okay, just forget it. I don't need to do it. And I'm kind of glad, I am glad that I didn't. And actually I haven't tinted the windows on the 10th anniversary either, because it makes it harder to see the red seats and kind of the cool stuff. I've always liked looking in the back window and seeing the Mach audio kidneys in there and stuff. So definitely a beautiful car. It actually didn't have the chrome wheels on it when I bought it. It had a set of chrome Cobra R wheels. So I'm gonna make a whole series about this car coming up pretty soon here now. But basically it's a low mileage, stock pulley, stock tune. It's about as stock as it gets, about all you can find out there. And it has 34,000 miles on it now, and just a really neat car to drive in. You know, I drove all of these here this morning except your yellow Cobra, and every single one of them drives differently. The clutch lets out a little bit different, a little higher, a little lower. They shift differently. The transmissions are different. The seats sit different. Some people say, why do you have so many of the same car? But they're not the same car at all. Every single one of them is different. And like you said, I don't want to daily drive this. I would feel guilty putting all those miles on it and then letting it sit in the rain and, you know, driving it through the rain and everything. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so happy to have this collection, is because I can use them for different things, and we'll get to the daily drivers.
So tell me about your comment, you're saving it for someone else.
You hear that comment, people say you're saving it for somebody else, but I mean, that's been highly debated. If I have one to drive every day, what does it matter if I let this one sit a little bit more than the other one?
Yeah.
You know, and you're not saving it for, like, anytime I feel like I'm not driving it enough, I drive it.
That's right.
And you know,
so you're more one who gets around.
If you want to look at it that way, as far as cars are concerned, yeah. But anyway, so that's a little bit about the orange Cobra. Let's go to the torch red Mach 1.
Okay, this car, I love this car, my Mach 1. It means a lot to me.
I bought it in Elko, Nevada. That's 8 hours from here. Huge long drive to get there. Showed up. It wasn't exactly as promised. I knew it had a bad transmission, but I bought it with a bad transmission, knowing that I was told the rest of the car was near perfect, and it showed a little bit more need for some TLC. You know, the rear diff was leaking. It had really bad rock chips on the front hood, and you know, I was already just nervous about buying it more as a project, so I turned it down the first time. Actually had Justin call the guy and say, hey, it's not going to work out, and then we renegotiated it and I got it back. And so this one represents a car that at the time I was buying it, all the other Mach 1s were pretty much brand new, like condition wise, and it was more of the rough shape of a Mach 1. After we put some good work into it, repainting the hood, I redid the decal, and it took me about 3 times to get this right. As I was peeling it back, it would bubbles and lift. This hood with that slope is actually pretty difficult to do that stripe, especially with the outer pinstripe. I found that I would, you know, poked holes in the template, so when you put it down and squeegee it out, the water had a place to drain. After the 3rd time, I got it just perfect. It came out.
So did you spray it and soap it up pretty good and move it around where you wanted, or you just kind of put it on dry one of the first times, right?
Yeah, I actually, without you knowing, I went and looked at your blue Mach 1, and I put painter's tape all over both of them to find out exactly where it needed to go. And yeah, then you hit it with the Windex and you set it down and kind of get it where you want and start squeegeeing it. But just with that slope and water drainage, it's a little bit more difficult than I thought. And so after, you know, 2 decals of it not quite working out, I got the second decal all the way down to here where I'm pulling the backing off, and then it lifted right at the bottom and put a crease in it. So I did get it on the 3rd try, and after everything was good, I sat there for 4 hours just hand massaging it with that backing on it and getting it just perfect. And you know, then in the end I kind of, there we go. Sorry, that was bugging me. But got it, you know, perfect after that. So it is more of a gloss black rather than the Mach 1's matte black, because that's all that American Muscle was offering at the time.
And you did have the hood repainted, because when you got it, it had looked like somebody shot it with a shotgun. There were just rock chips.
It was really bad
everywhere. Like somebody had, the guy probably followed his friends down dirt roads with it, or maybe the just the roads in Elko throw a lot of rocks and gravel and stuff on it. And so this, yeah, I remember you got the hood repainted, and they couldn't get the original stripe off. They said they had the hardest time getting that off.
On the Oasis report, it showed that when it was brand new, it got a new hood stripe for some defect that was under warranty. So maybe they glued the new one on, you know, differently. So it's in the end, it's still a very nice Mach 1. It's an example of what you do. You know, I got it for $6,800. You know, at the time, that was, you know, 11, 12 years ago. And so that's what we would always do with all these Mustangs. Go find one that needed work, fix it, get it for a better price, put our hard work into it to make up the difference. And you know, by today's standards, it's a good Mach 1 and looks just as good as a lot of the other ones on the road. It was also a time where, you know, these cars were selling for about $18,500 was normal. And so to pick it up for $68,000, do all the work myself, I came in, all said and done, about $10,000 or $11,000. So, you know, I still saved $5,000, $6,000 on it. And that's how we can afford to get what we did. Racing it at the track, one of the ABS reluctor rings came off. And so what I'd found is the previous owner must have snapped an axle, and he just hand beat another stock factory axle ring back on. And so at that time, though, digging into it, I said I really want to do 410s and 31 axle splines, 31 splines. So I built it with Moser axles and the Ford Cobra diff 31 spline, 410 racing, 410 gears from Ford Racing. And
you made that's actually where you started to make a lot of YouTube videos. That was one of your first YouTube videos, was how to build the rear end on the car.
Yes, that was, so
and you did it to help people, and I remember you used my computer or something to put it together.
Yeah.
It was kind of an interesting thing. And I can see here you have the Terminator folding mirrors on here.
Yes.
And that's actually pretty cool. That's part of a story of a Terminator that we found in a storage unit that was all stripped and cut up into pieces and parted out, and that's where those came from. They were Red Fire, off of a Red Fire convertible Cobra.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So yeah, you know, and check the video description, because I have full videos on all 3 of my cars that are here today, and so you can see all the details to that. But all in all, 03 Mach 1, it's been a great car.
And it really is beautiful. I mean, we'll look inside some of these in a little bit, but when I drove it over here this morning, the interior is just really nice. It was owned by a doctor first, for the first 60,000 miles, and just taken care of, and it's a really nice car.
Yep.
So we'll go here to, this is my second zinc yellow Mach 1, and both of them were 03s, because 03 was the only year they offered zinc yellow. It would have been screaming yellow if it was 04. And my other yellow one was a very nice car, about the same condition. It actually had more miles than this did, and I really liked it. And when we moved to this neighborhood, I had bought my house I'm in now, and just kind of shuffling things around, and decided to let go of a couple cars. And I had sold my yellow Mach 1 and my red Mach 1, and I started to feel really bad about it. And I thought, you know, I really love zinc yellow, and you know, I know a lot of people don't like zinc yellow. Most of those people haven't owned a zinc yellow or really have seen it in person as much. They kind of see these washed out pictures of it on the internet, and they think it's kind of an ugly color or whatever. But I mean, I can tell you there are tons of very, very ugly yellows. The Porsche Boxster has one of them. The PT, was it the PT Cruiser? The Crossfire, the Volkswagen Beetle. There's some really ugly yellows, and this is actually a very nice yellow in my opinion. I think it's a very bright yellow, and it's like the azure blue on the Mach 1. This actually reminds me more of what a 6970 Boss 302 yellow would be. Kind of more of that kind of a yellow. And I love it with the black stripes and all the Mach 1 stuff, especially, I just love how the Mach 1 stripe fades in the back here on all Mach 1s, and you really see that on the yellow. That was just something that I remember when I had my other yellow one. I was coming out of the grocery store, walking up to the car and seeing the bright yellow. When you walk out, and that's the first car you're gonna see because it's yellow, it's bright. And I thought, man, I love that car. I love the yellow. I actually didn't know whether I liked it more than the azure blue. And that's why we have so many cars, is because they're all special in their own way. Like, I love all the different colors and the options and the way they look. And like, for me, there's not just one that does it all. There's such a variety here. But I had sold my other yellow Mach 1, and I thought, I might not find another zinc yellow Mach 1 that nice. And maybe it's time to start looking for another one and get one while I can, because so I actually set out looking for a zinc yellow Mach 1. I saw a zinc yellow 01 Cobra, and I talked to the guy about buying it. So, you know, I like that car too. But ultimately, I found this one in California, and it's just a really, really nice car. The seats are nice, the paint's nice, it runs fantastic. It's a 4-thread cylinder head car too. So, you know, we talk a lot about the 9-thread heads and how they're the best, and that the 4-thread heads are inferior. And some people get upset about that. They're like, well, my 4-thread heads have never had a problem, and the 9 threads aren't technically better. As far as performance goes, that's probably true, as long as they haven't been over tightened and stripped and punched out of the head and you have to get helicoils. So when people ask us all the time, they say, what's the best car to buy? And we'll say, well, you probably want an 04, depending on what color you're looking for, because it has the better heads, because they technically are better. But in this case, this is a 4-thread car. I believe yours is a 4-thread.
This is 4-thread. In fact, this one even had the revision done. It has a blue stripe on one of the heads. And I want to say one was a DA head and the other was an AG or something.
It might be, yeah. And so this one has this has DA heads on it, and so it's the last set of heads that you would have gotten before they went to DB. And the blue one has DB, and it's a 03. My other red Mach 1 had the DB heads. It was an 04, so it had the 9-thread heads. And my other yellow Mach 1 actually had DC heads, which would have come out of either a Ford Racing catalog or off a Lincoln Aviator. And so I don't know the reason why the other one had heads, but something was, it had like a port for nitrous and things. I found a snow performance meth kit, and there were some things I found on that other yellow Mach 1 that made me believe that it had some work done to it, but it ran fine. It was a beautiful car.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to get another zinc yellow Mach 1. So
yeah, and we'll show you in the video description as well a full video we did on cylinder head revisions and, you know,
stuff like that.
and all
Yeah.
that. But
now this one had the wheels were plasti dipped when I bought it, and there's still a little bit here on the inner spokes and stuff, but I just wanted to bring it back to the original look. And you know, some people say, why don't you ever modify your cars? And they're modified, they're lowered, they're, you know, blower swaps, supercharger add-on, built engines. We have everything really. But to most people, when they see these cars, they look original because they have the original wheels on them. And I do like the original wheels that each of these came with, and I think that that's the way Ford made them. And you know, some car companies sell wheels on their vehicles that don't really look very good, but I think Mustang has always done a great job putting really good looking wheels on. These are heritage wheels for the Mach 1, and it's specific to the Mach 1.
and
So
I love you do
like
all your Mach 1s the same too. You do the AFS deep dish.
right.
It's something I really want to do to mine at some point, but then I just have to also lower it. And
Yeah, because
and
it doesn't look good when you have these on and the car's not lowered, because it just kind of 4x4 stances, and the profile's a little lower on the tire, so you have more gap. And so anyway, I had to have this one set up that way. I actually kept those wheels from my red Mach 1 when I sold it, so I'd have them. So they were always sitting in the garage, and I'm looking at cars for sale, and I'm like, well, if I get another zinc yellow Mach 1, I already got the wheels. And I did lower this one. It wasn't lowered when I bought it, so I did that. The Maximum Motorsports caster camber plates, and just I got it how I want it. Short shifter. And I daily drove it. It had 110,000 miles on it when I bought it. It's got 123 now. And I stopped daily driving it when I got the GTs, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But beautiful California car, no rust. It's a perfect replacement for what I wanted to replace my other yellow one with. So I'm happy with it. And yeah, I love the Mach 1s. They're awesome cars.
yeah, and you know, talking about my Mach 1, you know, it was the example of trying to find one that, you know, needed some work to get a better deal on it, put some hard work into it, and it turned out to a nice car. Now this one, Azure Blue 03, so this is your other one that you got about a month after I bought mine.
Oh, was it that soon?
In fact, mine's still up on jack stands. We're taking the transmission off, and you showed up with one that was perfect. So tell us again where you got this one.
Yeah,
and
so this is the Mustang I've owned the longest out of all of my Mustangs. And I bought this in 2010. It was either 2009, 2010, and my wife and I agreed on the color. I actually wanted a competition orange Mach 1 or a zinc yellow. And actually at the time I didn't know there was screaming yellow and zinc yellow. I just wanted a yellow Mach 1 or an orange Mach 1. And my wife said, well, you know, what about the blue color? And I said, oh, I absolutely love the blue ones too. Actually, I sat in one when it was almost new. It had 2,000 miles on it. And we actually have video of that car here in town. We found it, and it's a little more rough now. Still a nice car, but I said I've always loved the blue ones, and I would be happy to buy blue ones. So we agreed to buy a blue one because she liked this color too, and I have a lot of people in the family who tell me this is their favorite color, and you know all that.
it is beautiful.
And
yeah.
it is beautiful. Yeah. It is, you know, before Grabber Blue came out on the Coyote Mustangs, and well, the V6, I guess any of the 2011s or whatever, Azure Blue was about as bright as you could go with a blue. Is kind of a lighter blue color, and this one was just a beautiful car. It's always been my garage queen. Take it out when things aren't going well with the other cars, kind of a thing. Like the Bullitt has had so much work done to it, and there were times we'll talk about when like the engine popped on it from a bad tune, and when I was pulling the engine out of it and working on it and racing it and doing all those things, this was always just there when I needed it. Just parked in the garage, I could quit mid-project and just take a break, clean up, and go take this for a drive, and it always ran fine. It was always perfect. And you know, and I have a list of a lot of cars that I beat with it. Like it wasn't just a garage queen. It has some kills under its belt, and it's a great car. And I got it in Boulder City, Nevada, near Vegas. So this was sold new to Team Ford in Las Vegas, and it was in Henderson for about 22,000 miles, and then it went to Boulder City until 76,000 miles, and then that's when I bought it. And the guy actually was ordering a Coyote, a 2011 Coyote. That's why he was selling it. And I said, I will gladly take that blue Mach 1 off your hands. And this is just a car I really wanted. And it actually, I've talked all about it in my story about the car, but it's kind of fun to remember it is, I had the money in the bank to buy it, and I tried to do a withdrawal from the bank on a Saturday morning, and they told me they can't send that kind of money through the pipe, and the lobby's closed, and you know, I can't just buy the car even though I had the money, I couldn't go buy the car. And so it worked out in a way that you know, you told me go to another bank, go get a loan for it, get down there and buy the car, make it happen, and I did. And it was because of that I was able to actually get home, and I was going to pay the car off the next day because they gave me a really high interest loan because I was desperate. And when I went to put insurance on it, they said, hey, we'd like to buy your loan from you, which I've never heard of that really happening. And I said, yeah, I'd be happy to listen to what you have to say. And they said, yeah, we'll give you, like, it was like a quarter of the interest rate that the other bank had given me. And so, well, it was like 4% interest. The other bank had given it 16% is what they gave me the loan for. And I was just going to pay it off anyway. But the funny thing about it was, when I bought my first house, they told me if I didn't have this as a line of credit, then I probably wouldn't have gotten the house. And so it was something that
you proved to the wife, haha.
I proved, hey, it's worth having this car around. And so that's something that I really wanted to just kind of include in the video. I've talked about it in the series about the car, but it's just part of my life. And yeah, I could have paid it off right when I bought it, but I ended up using it as a line of credit to buy my house.
And you know, something people won't understand, but as twins, you're always dressed two different colors so your parents know who you are. And I was always red, and he was always blue. So it was kind of funny when that continued. We had matching twin cars, the V6 Mustangs that you've probably seen on his channel. And that has its own story that's cool too, but it was kind of fun now that they didn't match identically to at least have the color combination we had. This was also owned by somebody who worked a night shift, so its paint is perfect. It saw very little sun, and every time I go in it, it has a very nice smell to it. It's very clean, no rattles, no problems. It shifts smooth. It's a beautiful car to ride in, so I'm really grateful every time I get to cruise around with him. This is the first one he did the AFS wheels on that looked just amazing. And you know, I'm very jealous of those wheels. I need to put some on mine and lower it.
Yeah, actually, I remember when I bought those wheels, it was kind of a weird story. I helped you move a dog kennel across your yard, and it cut into my finger, and all the weight on that kennel on my finger actually made my finger go numb for a few days, and I didn't know if I'd ever get the feeling back in that finger. And I thought, well, if life's gonna have some things like this that make me upset, I'm gonna buy those AFS wheels at least and have something fun to offset this like pain I have in my hand and stuff. And luckily that went away, everything's fine. But that was one of the things that persuaded me to go ahead and just live life the way you want to live it, and anything can happen, so you might as well have some fun. But yeah, beautiful car. It had 76,000 miles on it when I bought it, which at the time, it was a little bit higher. I was finding 18,000 mile Mach 1s for 20 grand, and this was about half that price, and so I was just happy to find it.
Yeah, very, again, he's able to come park this right next to mine as we're working on it and trying to, you know, put mine back together. And, you know, it made me double question myself a few times. Did I do the right thing buying one that needed work? Because this one is just mint. So, Okay, now it's time to talk about Snowy. So again, check the video description because I have well over an hour video on this car. It's a normal white Mustang GT that you wouldn't think anything of, but this car means a lot to me, just as much as the others. And so this car represents to me a time when I was, you know, just getting our first job. I'm with Justin, we're carpooling, we're driving our V6 Mustangs, and we're going to college, and you just want that something to look forward to. And so we had never owned a V8 Mustang before, and I remember seeing this one in town and walking up to it, and I'm feeling what felt like a very thick paint on, you know, Oxford white. I'm seeing the GT badge, I'm looking in and seeing that it's a 5-speed car, and I'm just thinking, wow, this is a powerful car. Going from 150 horsepower V6, okay, and this was, you know, probably 15 years ago, and it's very dirty because it's my daily. But this represents to me buying my first car. This was the first car I ever did buy. And it was also a lot of struggle back and forth because as I bought it, I'm newly married and I convinced my wife to get it. And as they're telling us over the phone how much insurance is going to be for a V8 and all this, and I'm still under 24, whatever it was, where your insurance rate drops, I felt like I got punched in the gut when they told me my new insurance amount. And I'm looking at my wife like, she can't even know how much this car is going to cost. But in the end, it was a car I had to let go of for a certain time, and I didn't want to let go of it, but I was trying to do the right thing. And Justin would keep finding it in town, and we'd go out and find who owned it. We'd test drive it again, and we'd keep trying to get this car back, and we just never could. And so I learned a lot on this car too. At the time I bought it, I had only done spark plugs and oil changes. And this car taught me so much as we did the intake manifold gasket, power steering lines, air conditioning lines, oil filter adapters, so many different things on this car that we had to learn to do. Because I bought it with, had like 95,000 miles on it. And, you know, power steering leaks, all the little things that we'd never really experienced.
I remember taking the intake manifold off and looking down in the ports for the first time. That's the deepest we had gotten into an engine, like working on these cars at the time. And I thought, whoa, I can see the valves down in there. Like I can see stuff. That's so weird, you know?
Yeah, this is an 01, but it was built in December of 99, so it actually had the Windsor
2000
engine,
probably,
it had
yeah.
the T45, it had all the 2000 Mustang stuff. So even when we did the intake manifold gaskets, they gave us everything for a Romeo engine. And, you know, we're trying to figure out why it's just not coming back together right. So, you know, lots of little things with that. But, I mean, this car has been picked up with a forklift and moved around when it was salvaged out. You'll have to watch the whole video I have on this one to really appreciate it. It's a daily driven Mustang right now. It shows its age. I love driving it every day, Borla exhaust, and gets me to work every day. Takes really good care of me.
It sounds fantastic. It has weld-in Borla stingers, and I made a video that showed the difference in sounds because somebody said a 2-valve and 4-valve sound nothing alike. And almost everybody guessed that was a Cobra when they put down the number on the video of guess whether it's a 4-valve or a 2-valve. It sounds really good. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
you know.
So we could go hours talking about this car, but just watch the videos on it. But it represents a lot of things. A V8, the sound of the V8, getting your first car, having to give something up, getting it back, the whole story, chasing it down, buying it back from salvage auction, replacing all the fenders and the doors and the carpet, and you know, so this one has probably the best story of all three of my cars, at least. And you know, I love it and drive it every day.
Yeah, it's a really neat car, and you know, when it's not yours and you see it parked on a car lot, or you see it parked in a parking lot at the college like we did, you drive by and see it and say, man, I want that car back, and you'd walk up to it and you can't touch it. It's not your car. And so it means a lot to us to get this car back, and only people who have gone through something like that will really understand, but you can get the idea that this is a special car. It's a higher mileage. It has what, 200,000?
Yeah, over 200,000 miles on it.
200,000 miles. I didn't know it was lower mile, like 90,000 miles when you bought it. That's pretty low.
Yeah, it was under 100,000.
Yeah, that's actually pretty low. My Bullitt had 126,000 on it when I bought it. And this car, I have a complete series about. This is the car I end up talking a lot about when I talk to people about my Mustangs. They'll say, oh, you have a Terminator? Yeah, you got a Mach 1. Yeah, they're beautiful cars, everything. But we get to talking, next thing I know, I'm telling them everything about this car, because this is the one that I did all my racing in. I did all sorts of upgrades to and fixed. And I do have a whole series about it, several videos long. When I make my Mustang stories, they're usually like 10, 20 minutes long for each Mustang video I do for the owners. But I knew that this car would require a several video series to talk about everything, and I know I'd still leave stuff out about this car. And so you can watch all those videos, but roughly it was sitting under a carport in Vegas. It was actually sold new in Utah here, but then it went down to Vegas, and it had a really awful crease in the door right here, right under the mirror. The mirror was busted off. It had an aftermarket mirror, which had different texture to it, and you know, the bumper was hanging on the right here, and it had a dent here too. It was in really rough shape. Hood scoop was completely faded, and I just wanted a nice V8 to daily drive, because I didn't want to daily drive the blue Mach 1. I wanted something that I could go racing in and not feel bad about braking like the Mach 1. You know, a 2-valve, you can't really hurt it, and if you do, then there's things that you can do to make it better. Where the 4-valve cars, they're just pricey to fix, and I mean, you could do a forged engine in a Mach 1 and do things to make it a little bit better, but it's basically an engine you don't want to hurt. This one, I could race all I wanted. I could go learn how to do donuts. I could go do burnouts with it. You know, if we're in a parking lot with a bunch of friends and I want to smoke everybody out, the Bullitt would do it. It was just fun.
And with the GT, you can go get a Crown Vic engine for $500.
Yeah.
And just swap it over, and you have, I don't know if you know how many times you have. How many times?
Several times.
Several times.
I bought several, and for a Crown Vic engine, you have to be careful, because they didn't get the PI engine that these 99 plus GTs got until 2001. So you want to get a later Vic engine.
But do you also see a trend here? I buy my first GT, he buys his first GT. I buy my first Mach 1, he buys his first Mach 1. I buy my first Cobra, he buys his first Cobra.
That's right.
So really, in a way, you have to blame me too.
Well, and so what we used to do is play pool during college. Both of our apartment complexes where we were living had pool tables, and we'd sit there and play, and we'd say, you know, we'd have our conversations and say, you know, I really want a Mach 1, or I really want to buy this Bullitt, or whatever. I actually have the piece of paper that you and I were sitting in college writing back and forth on, and we were writing about how much this would cost and what I could sell, and we had a green 97 GT parts car, and you gave it to me and said you can part the rest of it out and pay for that Bullitt if you want. And we had everything written out of what it would cost and what we can do and how to go about it. And so that's the fun part about being twins who get along really well and have a good time and love the same hobby, is we encourage each other and we egg each other on, and next thing you know, we're buying cars and having fun and stuff. But as far as the GTs are concerned, it's kind of fun. These cars are actually very similar. These are both 01s. The 02 and this 01 are both stick shifts. All these are sticks except for the silver automatic. But it's just kind of fun to just to have these cars. Anyway, it has seats out of another Bullitt that were out of a black Bullitt I bought for a short time because they were nicer shape, and it has a lot of things done. But ultimately, what makes this car shine, everybody loves the cams in this car. It has Comp Stage 3 XC270 AH cams, and it just chops, and it's super loud, and you're sitting at a stoplight. I've had friends tell me, I was in front of you and I could only hear your car when we were at a stoplight, and that friend had a 3-valve GT, you know.
And these GTs, they appeal to such a larger crowd because so many more people have them, you know, and so anything we do on these ones or whatnot, it actually helps a lot of people. And I'm going to throw you back to when we were buying this car, we took it for a test drive and it was misfiring. And so we took it to AutoZone, we bought coil packs, swapped it over. It started up and ran like a dream, and the owner was like, I'm not sure I want to sell it now. And we were like, too bad, you already said that you were selling it. And so we kind of twisted his arm and we ended up with it. But
yeah, it was $50 a coil, an ignition coil, plus plugs and oil change. I did all that before I even took the title of the car. And so it was about $400 or $500 I put into this car. And so I got it for a pretty good price back then. It was $4,100, but by the time I got out of Vegas and got it home, it was like $4,500, $4,600 I was in it. But you know, I did a lot to clean it up, and I just wanted to daily drive it, and it was all stock, 100%. Air filter, paper filter, you know, stock wheels, stock shifter, no exhaust upgrades, and everything that's Bullitt specific to it that I took off, I kept in a box. You know, I have the intake manifold because it's supercharged now with an Eaton off a 03 Cobra and stuff, and so I have everything that the car comes with. And yes, the engine popped on me at the quarter-mile strip in Vegas. The top of fourth gear, one of the ring lands popped on number 3, and it was contributed to being a bad tune, and it was too lean, and so it was too bad because I was really enjoying racing the crud out of this car, and just, you know, I have videos of it just gapping LS1 cars, and you know, I did 373s and headers basically out there just really winning.
Charger RTs, everything back in that time.
Horse Charger RTs and stuff.
350Zs.
350Zs.
Yeah.
I have
a list that's...
I have a list. It's just tons of cars that I beat with it. And it's one thing to buy a new GT500 and go out and beat people and say I beat a lot of guys, or to pay a shop to build you a car and go out. But it's another thing when you start with something really basic and lower power, you know, 265 horse, you know, and then build it up into something that's a little bit better. And then, you know, I've beat ZL1 Camaros in this and a lot of supercharged, really high-end cars. And yeah, driver error, maybe I'm a better driver than those people, but it definitely has held its own, and I've beat more people in this car than any of my other cars, and it's been impressive and fun. But it's not about trying to be number one, because there are guys out there that'll gap me all day long, and I know there are.
So tell us a little bit more. With our ingenuity, you know, we're trying to find something that's cheap, that needs work to make up that difference. So when you pop the engine, tell us what you came up with.
So yeah, let me get the key. So it is pretty impressive when you look under here and see what it is. It's a 2-valve still, which is what I like, and like it's a fun car for what it is. I could have 4-valve swapped it, and I looked into it and everything, but when the engine popped at the racetrack, I started pricing what it was going to cost to build an engine. And I had a good friend down in Vegas, Caesar, and he had rebuilt his True Blue GT a couple times, and he told me it cost him about $6,000 to build that engine. So I started looking around, and this is all in the history of the car on my YouTube videos, but on the series. But basically, I found a silver GT that had a brand new engine. It had 300 miles on it. It was an MMR Street Mod 600, and it had the heads and cams and everything in it already. And I bought the entire car, and then I put the engine in here. And some people were like, why are you taking that nice GT and taking that built engine and putting it in here? I said, well, this is my favorite car for, you know, this is my love. Like I love this car, and I've been like partners in crime with this car for a long time, and it's not going anywhere, and I just want to enjoy it and race it and stuff. And I put a stock 2-valve back in that GT. It's not like I stripped that car and left it for dead. I put it back on the road, and it only had 56,000 miles on it, so it was a nice car and easy to sell with the stock engine in it. And so that's how it got the built engine. And then I bought another GT that had the supercharger kit on it down in Phoenix. And that car, like when you look up the Torque Tech supercharger kit, which is what this is, it makes an 03 Cobra supercharger fit on a 2-valve. I mean, you could, with this lower end intake manifold, you could put a Kenny Bell or my same VMP or anything that was made for an 03 Cobra you can put on here. And
this car already had the forged engine, so it made sense to go ahead and buy that GT and put the blower on, because it was a stock engine car, and that other GT was. And so I returned the other one to stock, drove it for a little while and sold it, and then I put this setup on it. And so it's pretty cool because it screams like an 03 Cobra. It's what I wanted originally. I talked about how I wanted to put a supercharger on this car, and it was the one I raced the most and everything. And so it just worked out that way. And by the time I sold the other car and did everything, I about broke even. So it was like getting the supercharger kit for my labor is what it cost me, my time and my labor. And so if you think back to how I was going to pay $5,000 to buy all this and do this to the car, but I bought my orange Cobra instead, it's good that I was patient, because this worked out for me, and then I have both of the things I wanted at that point.
Yeah, and so then you notched the hood because it doesn't fit.
Yep, the pulley was sticking through the hood when I test drove it the first time. And so, you know, some people, like, they'll notice, oh yeah, you've got the holes here in the hood because the scoop had to come forward to cover the pulley, because I didn't want rainwater and things going in. I was daily driving it. I daily drove this car like this for a long time. And I loved daily driving it because it was quick. A Scat Pack Challenger came up to me on the freeway once, and we went at it, and I edged him out, and it was just like, daily driving a quick car was fun for me, but I knew it could get me in trouble too. And so it's actually nice daily driving the more stock GTs now. But yeah, this car's been through a lot, and you know, it still has the dent in the quarter panel when I bought it this way. A lot of people tell me to get that fixed, and maybe I will paintless dent repair that one day. I planned on repainting the entire car, but I'm actually starting to like the idea. I just original paint car, and they're only original once, and I know it's not perfect. It's got a lot of the checking and the clear coat. They call it crow's feet. It's where the clear coat fails. And I've seen super low mile blue Bullits that still have this cracking going on and stuff, and so it could be repainted once, but I think it's kind of a shame to hide that beautiful original true blue, just to make it nicer when I have nicer cars. And to me, it just kind of gives its own look. It's kind of rough around the edges, and but maybe one day, maybe I'll repaint it. But spending money to repaint the car when you can put that towards buying another Mustang is always a difficult thing to do.
We still have a 96 bright tangerine orange GT on our bucket list, and the Granny GT, and some others too.
Yeah, there's other Mustangs that'd be fun. I mean, we're kind of tapped out right now with space.
There's nowhere to put them.
There's nowhere to put them. But yeah, so I mean, the Bullitt, a lot of people have actually commented on the channel and said they love this out of all the cars I own, even better than the Terminator. So it's fun, and it's nice for the car to get a little respect that it deserves. And it's a car that, you know, most people look at and they're just like, oh, it's a blue Mustang. They don't know it's a Bullitt. They don't care. And it's a 2-valve. And so some people don't care about it, but I don't care what other people think. I love these cars, obviously. You and I both love these new Edge Mustangs, and that's why we have so many of them. And but anyway, speaking of other cars, this GT was left for dead. It was hit in an intersection by the previous owner. The whole front was twisted off of it. It was parted out. He sold the seats. He sold the engine. He cut every wire harness in it to get the door panels off to pull the engine out. And he just completely stripped this car. And when I bought it, it didn't have a hood on it, didn't have the trunk, it didn't have fenders. It was, the inside was disgusting, you know, no seats. And all the old parts were just shoved inside of it. And I have pictures and videos. I have a whole series on getting the car. And when I originally bought this GT, well, I got it for free, actually. I paid $75 to have it towed to my house because the guy had finished parting it out and then put it on Facebook Marketplace for free because he couldn't keep it at the house he lived at anymore. And so I offered to buy it when it was first wrecked, and then he said, no, I want to part it out. So he did. But I originally picked up the car just because I felt bad for it. And, you know, my wife was like, what are you going to do with a wrecked GT like that? It's twisted so bad that you probably won't fix it. And I thought, well, if anything, I love these cars so much, I'll let it sit in my side yard as long as it doesn't go to the crusher. And I'll store Mustang parts in it. I'll do something with it. I'll use it as a shed. And so I looked it over with my friends and my cousin, and we were looking at how twisted it was, and they're like punching me on the shoulder and saying, hey, you can fix this, do it. And I was like, I've never done body work before, I've never done anything like that. I was like, it's so, like the hood wouldn't even shut when we put another hood on it just to keep the water out. It sat real twisted. And so I kind of thought of the idea, well, maybe I'll fix it up, and maybe I'll go out there first and I'll start doing things on it. So I watched YouTube videos on how to drill out spot welds, because the whole front clip was twisted, and I started like accumulating parts, and actually I had almost everything I needed anyway in spare parts to put this car back together. But I have a whole series on it, and you know, it's kind of neat, but it drives nice. It has a new engine I got out of pick-apart, and it was just recently rebuilt before that other car got wrecked that it was in, and so it's a very nice running car. It's a stick shift. The guy had the transmission to it. I had to buy that back from him, and I put Mach 1 seats in it and stuff I had lying around. And a friend in Florida sent me the hood scoop, because he had wrecked his zinc yellow GT pretty bad, and so he's like, hey, I got a really nice zinc yellow hood scoop if you want it. And I said, yeah, please. And he was really nice, and like I sent him a little money for shipping and stuff, but like I don't think it even covered what he spent to give it to me. And so it was just really nice of him to do that for me and stuff. But this car is just, it is an example of like a car people would throw away or write off because it's wrecked and it's a 2-valve. It's not that valuable. You know, a Terminator, maybe somebody would have, been more excited to fix it, but it was already parted out and left for dead. So I actually took this to a car show. It's like one of the Cars and Coffee type meets. And, you open the hood and you see some of these older people walk up, and they're just shocked when they see, oh my gosh, it has a red engine bay. What happened here? And, is that a car you would take to Cars and Coffee? Most people probably wouldn't.
Sure is. The story's the best.
But there were some older people who said, wow, you did all this work yourself? We don't see kids anymore who are getting their hands dirty and working on stuff like this. They all want to play video games and things. And so this whole front clip is actually off a Torch Red Mach 1. It was an automatic, and I think it was an 04. I still have the buck tag in my garage, but it did actually come off a Mach 1, and you would know that because the engine bays were clear coated on Terminators and Cobras and Bullitt. And so there are some things that you could tell that way, but basically I had to put this entire thing on and had it welded in and everything, and I watched the videos on how to do it and where to drill out spot welds and everything. But it's just, from going from a shell to a complete running car again, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, a lot of work, especially the wiring, all that. Most people just give up, and to switch out harnesses and do everything like that.
That's right. Actually, I have a Sonic Blue GT I bought that was a parts car, and I had to get the entire fuse box harness and all the other harnesses out of it. So, I mean, everything you see here had to come out of another car, and I had to take all the brake lines off. I had to take everything off of the car so that I could cut the old front end off and get it out of there, and then place this one in and get it welded. I have a really good friend who came and welded it for me, and so it's pretty strong. And actually what's kind of cool is underneath it has the K-member brace of a convertible Mustang, and then that ties the K-member to the body, and so there's some things like that that kind of brace it even more than it would be. So it's pretty strong, and I mean, it's driving down the road, you never know it was ever wrecked. And but it's all welded in, it's all solid, and the engine runs great. I bought a Borla exhaust for it from a guy up in Washington who was really nice to send it down to me. And but yeah, I mean, everything, when you buy a car like this, you're like, oh, it doesn't have these pieces to hold the hood up. It doesn't have the hood latch. It was, the hood latch was destroyed in the accident. The cable for the hood latch was destroyed in the accident. Just everything on this car needed to be done. And I got the body panels off of a V6, a zinc yellow V6 that was in the wrecking yard, but I didn't know until I got down there that it was actually repainted at one point. It was still a zinc yellow original car, but it was kind of probably a Mako job, and so It doesn't match perfectly, but you know, it's better than the car that it was when I got it, being a parted out shell that didn't even have a trunk or anything on it. So, I mean, we got extra parts from your house just to weatherproof it, just to put a trunk on it for the meantime. So that leads us to the silver GT. So I actually bought this car so that I could take the engine out and put it in that one. This car was wrecked, it was down in Pahrump, Nevada. And when I was looking for a few things I needed for this, the engine, the power steering lines, the brake booster hard lines, all that was cut from the previous owner when they parted the car out. And so I found this one, and it looked really bad on the pictures. They were parting it out. The guy had sold the seats and the wheels off of it, and he took the catalytic converters and stuff like that. So this car, the guy was selling for parts, and I said, well, do you have the title? And he actually did have the title to it. He said it was a lady in town who owned it, and she got in an accident, and I don't think they had insurance on it or anything, and so she sold it to him because he just buys junk cars and cuts the cats off of them and stuff. And so I said, well, I need the engine, and you know, I'll save you time for having to pull it out, and I'll just come down and just take the whole car if you want. And he didn't get back to me for a couple weeks, and so it wasn't going to happen. And then I was at Walmart, and I was just thinking about it, and I pulled out my phone and I just messaged him and said, hey, so are you still interested in selling that car to me? And he said, hey, I'm sorry, I had a lot going on, you know, some pretty big family issues. I'll tell you what, you come down and you can take the whole car for less than what he was going to sell it to me for. So, I mean, it's still a little nerve-wracking to have to get a trailer and a friend with a truck and go down and pick up a car that, you know, you're buying sight unseen as a parts car and stuff, and you're spending a lot of money here, and you're hoping it's going to work out. But when I got the car home, I realized this thing is beautiful. It had 62,000 miles on it, and it was originally owned by an old couple in California. And I found, like, behind the glove box, there's like a handicap sticker registration thing or something on it. And so it was a car that was owned by them for a long time, and then the lady who unfortunately had the accident with it had it, and she took really good care of it. It was all stock, it was never beat on, it was low mileage. So when I got it home, I thought, you know, this car runs and drives. I mean, it didn't drive very good because the exhaust was cut off of it and the O2 sensors and stuff, so it didn't really want to stay running when I got it. But I thought, why not just fix this one? It'd actually be a little easier. And yeah, it is dirty. This is a dirty engine bay because I do daily drive it. My wife drives it. But again, I have a whole story about this car and all the things I did with it. But you know, you had a perfect running drivetrain, and it just needed the front. I noticed from the strut towers back, it was straight, even more straight than the yellow one. So I thought I could probably put this car back together pretty quickly and enjoy driving it, plus not have to daily drive the yellow Mach 1 and put miles on it and stuff. And I'll do that first, and then I'll get back to the yellow one. So this was a huge project for me. This front clip, you'll notice, is screaming yellow, and it's clear coated, so that tells you it's off of a Cobra or a Mach 1, but it's off a Cobra because it came off my friend's screaming yellow 04 Terminator. So my taxi 1320, really great guy who's been into the Terminators for longer than we have. You know, I've talked to him and made a friendship with him down in Vegas at the racetrack, and he actually cut the front of his Cobra off purposely so that he could do a tubed front end and big turbo and everything. And so I just messaged him and said, hey, do you still have the front of your car? Because, you know, I could have done a tubular front end on this too or something, but he said, yeah, I do. And I said, well, I'd kind of like to put that on my GT if you're not doing anything with it. And he said, hey, it's yours. Come down and get it. I'll put it aside just for you. He made a nice video and showed it to me and said, just come get it. So to have a piece of that car, which to me and my brother here are, you know, that's a super iconic car. It's kind of cool to say I've got a part of a of a Terminator that's done 8-second quarter miles, and you know it's about to be even faster than that. But that's why I had this welded in. I got it all set up, and my friend came and welded it in, and I did not paint it silver to match the engine bay, because to me this is original screaming yellow for a, you know, 04 Cobra, and a special car at that. And so that was my choice. And people say, you know, they give me all sorts of trouble and say, you know, you should have painted it and blah blah blah. But let's remember whose car it is. It's my car. And I chose to leave it that way because I have my own reasons for doing so. And so if you don't like it, then that's too bad. You can say to yourself, I don't like that, and move on. But you don't have
Go
to
get your own car.
go paint your own car, or go get your own car. This is my car, and I chose to do that. Now, if this car ever gets sold or anything later down the road, then yeah, it'll be, you know, noticeable. But it's a very nice car, and I've driven it over 20,000 miles now. And so my wife and I both enjoy it. It's an automatic, so she enjoys driving it. So it works out. And again, V6 hood, I had the scoop when the car was wrecked, so I took the scoop off, put it on a V6 hood, and I got, this is actually original fender on this side. I had bought other fenders that were mismatched color and stuff, but yeah, you look at that silver paint and it's just beautiful. It glimmers in the sunlight. And
I'd have to say, condition-wise, exterior, this is the nicest GT that we have.
it is. Yeah, it's funny. It's lower mileage and nicer car than the other GTs. It had a pretty bad accident, but you know, and I just replaced the windshield recently. I drove it with a cracked windshield, and it's not until you drive around with a shattered windshield that you realize how nice it is to have a new windshield and stuff. So the interior was nice. The seats were gone. This is actually an interior upgrade package car. So it had the leather seats with the big headrests and the silver door posts and the pedals and everything. But that Sonic Blue GT I bought as a parts car for this car still had the seats in it. So I put them in here. They're actually cloth seats, which I really like. The GT cloth seats are actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
So I put Bullitt wheels on it. I already had a set of Bullitt wheels sitting in the garage for it, and so it's back to the way it actually came, because I had seen pictures of it before when it had the Bullitt wheels on it.
And notice how this has Mach 1 wheels on it.
Yeah, it does.
Until you come to the other side, and now we're back to the GT Bullitt wheels.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because I'm just doing that because I have so many extra wheels and tires. I kind of want to wear them out instead of just buy new sets and have others go bad. And I like the look of Bullitt wheels on a GT. I think that's the way it should be. And so that's why I left them on one side, because you can only see one side of a car at a time. So, you know, I actually had a friend who said he saw the car parked in the parking lot, and he said it had Mach 1 wheels on it, so he knew it was mine. But then he saw it again a little bit later with the Bullitt wheels, so he thought it wasn't me, because he didn't know I didn't have a full set of Mach 1 wheels on it at the time. So, but anyway, but I've done a lot of talking. What do you have to say?
Yeah, well, I only own 3 of these. You own the rest, so yeah, just check the video description, because you know Justin does stories on all these cars as his specialty, and we'll just put the ones that we have. If you have questions, let us know. But you know, we're just 2 brothers really enjoying life, and these cars, as fun and cool as they are, the best part is being able to get in it and drive around and spend time together. That's what is the epitome of all of this. Otherwise, you know, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. So
yeah, absolutely. It's just you enjoy the cars, you enjoy the stories, you enjoy the people that you share it with. And you know, you look at this big lineup of cars and you say, who would buy that many cars? But like we said, they all came one at a time. They came for different reasons. You know, you have one, but you know, you always want the Cobra, so you get the Cobra, and you still like the Mach 1, so you don't want to sell it to get the Cobra. So you do what you can to make it happen. And then you got some GTs to drive and enjoy as daily drivers that can get rained on or whatever, even though they're great cars. And you know, we never talk down on people who don't have the higher trim cars. Maybe the GT is the only thing they have, and it's their nicest car. And we appreciate that, and we love that. And so, you know, if your GT is what you have, don't feel bad that you don't have a Cobra or a Mach 1, because they're all special cars, and they all need a good owner to take care of them, and they can all be enjoyed in different ways. You don't have to have a super fast car to enjoy it, and you don't have to have a faster car than somebody else to enjoy it, you know, so.
Yeah. Here comes the fox, but we got one.
Terminator.
Yeah. So.
I don't think that's a Mustang engine.
It is.
The Cobras, after 1996, they went to the dual overhead cam.
So we can definitely talk and talk and talk about all these cars. There's always more to say, and you know, the videos we've made about the cars do a good job of that. So be sure to continue to look at the playlists about each of these cars and the Mustang updates. And we'll continue here with a little bit of the, you know, getting the cars out of here and stuff. But
Here's a little behind the scenes footage. You want to count these with me? 1,
There better be 9 more.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you have your Cobra key.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those wheels, premium GT wheels. Set the bait, and we're attracting more Mustangs.
it's pretty funny to have all those keys to all these Mustangs. I have a different keychain on each one. That's how I tell them all apart. So that makes things a little bit easier. But really fun day, beautiful time of day. Absolutely gorgeous out here, and fun to get all the Mustangs together. It was actually pretty cool. A few people stopped in to see what we were up to, and a guy came with his family, and he got out with his wife and his little kid, and they walked around and asked if they could look at the cars, and we said yes. And I just asked if he, you know, grew up with these kinds of cars. He looked like he was about my age, and he said he had 2 or 3 SN95 Cobras, like in 97s and stuff. So it was pretty cool to hear that. I'm glad he stopped by. I'm glad he said hello, and he was really impressed with the Cobras. He really liked those. And so it's pretty cool to talk to people and see who's around. A nice lady in a Mercedes SUV pulled in, and she was really excited, and she's like, wow, you guys having a car show? And I said, yeah, kind of, making a YouTube video. And she was like, that's really cool. So it was fun to see positive people. Here came one of our other friends, the GT. we don't really put our cars in car shows and stuff. We go to, car meets and stuff once in a while, have our own car shows and our own car meets, and we like that better because it really attracts the people who are interested in these cars. And and best of all, making these videos and sharing it with people who really care about these cars on YouTube is where we really enjoy sharing the cars, because there are people out there who are not local who really appreciate this, and those people who watch the channels. So we thank everyone for that and for the friendships we have with you. And, this is just a lot of fun, and we're grateful to share it with everybody. We're grateful for our friendships. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.